Well, good morning and God's morning to you. Welcome to today's broadcast. You know what? Something technical is happening behind the scenes. Please hold. I'll be right back. Okay. And we're back. All right. And so, welcome to today's broadcast. As you can see here, we're talking about teaching teens about secular music and fantasy versus reality. So, tell me where you're tuning in from today as you're getting online. I want to hear from you. If you have questions about this subject or any of the other subjects that we've addressed, I want to know. We have to recover a generation as well as protect them. You know, the argument of, for example, secular music is as old as, well, secular music and what is secular. And I mean, it's just music. And does God really care? And is it really that deep? And we get into all these kind of things. And I can listen to this and be fine. And I can listen to that and be fine. But what we have to understand is, first of all, and I'm going to get into how we even got on this subject in just a moment. It's about what you take into your soul. In listening to and going through Dr. Price's series that she has, and really her Paula Price Power Train teaching on the soul, which is live now on Dr. Paula Price Powertrain.com. She is talking about, hey, East Coast, Maryland is in the house, as well as West Coast, California is in the house from coast to coast. Apostle of the Future is broadcasting today, so share this with your friends, their parents, your teenagers, your grandparents, your grandchildren, your whomever that you have that's young or older. If you are over young people, raising them up as custodians of them, guardians, then you want to make sure that you tune in today, take good notes, and share some more and share, because this is a really important topic that we're addressing. Oh my goodness, my brain, Lord help me, that we're addressing today with secular music, fantasy versus reality. Last year in youth group, we talked about fantasy a lot. Fantasy, as far as what it is and the dangers of it. And it was really tied to young people because of all of these apps. We've been talking about this for about a year, and what they see online versus what is reality online. And then how they're making decisions for their life based on what they imagine to be true about somebody else, or what this person is showing to be themselves. So, for example, I mean, even something as basic as how pretty somebody is. Well, we're talking about 10 pounds of makeup. And hey, I sell makeup, so I understand makeup. You put on your lashes, you paint on your lips. I mean, you paint on your eyes, you paint everything on to accentuate or change your features. You know, makeup is real artistry. And so now that artistry has rolled over into obsession in a lot of people's hands. And I don't know about you, but I've watched these videos online where girls, or boys as well, at this point, will actually change the way their face looks, not just enhancing what you look like, to where, when you see somebody walking down the street with or without makeup, it's them. But to the point where without it, they literally look like a different person. And so we've gone from enhancing makeup to transformative makeup, makeup that would typically only be used in the industry, only be used for television or film, now in the hands of the everyday man at home. And with that, I mean, the whole contouring, now they show you how to change all of this. If you want to look like you have a thinner face, if you want to look like you have a thinner nose, if you want to look like you have a wider lip. So most people want a thinner nose and thicker, fuller lips. And if you want to smooth out your chin and remove all of this and change this, and so now over the counter, so to speak, you can go to your favorite drugstore and get your whole kit to literally change the way your face looks like it's shaped. I watched a makeup artist once. He was putting makeup on a female. I think she's a female MMA wrestler, MMA fighter, or female wrestler, and she had broken her nose at some point, and so he showed her how to look like her nose was straight when it was crooked based on makeup. So there's a lot that we can do with manufacturing something that is not true. And between that and then anybody with filters, between the two, you're actually sometimes not really sure what somebody really looks like. The photoshopping abilities. I saw this quick video roll through last night of a photographer who was just going through all the things that people ask her to photoshop in wedding pictures. A woman making her behind look bigger in her wedding dress. Okay. And then, the her sister taking her picture, not feeling like putting on makeup. She's like, can't you just put makeup on me in Photoshop in post production, and removing snowflakes from a picture off of somebody's face, and removing the umbrella from the picture. So they're in the rain taking a picture together, remove the umbrella. So, asking for all these completely non realistic post production finishes on something to give the image of what is true, because it's the fantasy of what you want to be true. But that's in fact not what happened at all. I think it's important to watch behind the scenes, and to now why am I there we go, to watch behind the scenes, and what's going on and how things are made, and everything like that, because if not, then you will walk in and your young people will look at life thinking what they see is real. I encourage you and I challenge you to sit down with your children, sit down with your grandchildren, and really ask them, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? Go for what's hot right now. You have the Kardashians and the whole tribe are really big. You have other music stars that are huge, film actors that are big, and it doesn't let me can I lean in, it doesn't matter if you don't allow this in your house, it's still hitting your kids. My mother did not allow secular music in her home, yet I knew probably almost every song from the 90s, because that's when I was in high school and my early college years. And so you have got to know that just because you don't allow something in your home does not mean it isn't hitting your kids. And now with our cell phones, everything is inundating them all the time. Whether you allow it or not, your child may have a cell phone where you have the what's it called, parental features on it, and you might be tracking everything they're watching. And I think that's essential. Forget privacy. What do you need privacy for? You have to buy privacy. When you own something and pay your own bills, then you have privacy. But as long as you are a minor underage living with somebody else, you don't have privacy. This is just crazy. And so I respect that, but they have friends, and friends may have they may not have those guards on their phones. Or how about this? Kids are smart. They can go to the gas station, buy burner phones. They get all kinds of things, other ways where they can sneak and watch what they want to watch, listen to what they want to listen to. I know somebody who was so proud of their sons, because they were such good church boys and everything else, and she was mortified when she found out one of her sons got his girlfriend pregnant. When did he have time to do that? We talking about it does not take 3 days, okay, to have sex and conceive a child. It takes a hot second, as far as how many hours are in a day. And so let's take off the rose-colored glasses sometimes of what we want our children to be exposed to and not. If you have a child who has a lot of time alone with their tech, if you have a child who has a lot of time with their tech sitting in front of you, you don't know what they're always looking at. And so you want to make sure, ask them, have questions, prepare yourself for what they're going to say. Have your bluff face. Because when young people start telling you things that you're like, what? But you have to remain calm in the moment so they continue to talk and share. Because the last thing you want is for them to go somewhere else to get their wisdom instead of you. Now, that's not saying that things should not have correction. I'm not saying there shouldn't be punishment. I'm not saying they shouldn't be grounded. Take that tech from them, all those kind of things. Be the parent, be the guardian, be the grandparent, be the aunt, the uncle, be the supervisor, be the sibling, the older sibling. Do your job. but make sure they know that there's always an open door to come and be honest, because hey, we were teenagers once too, and we didn't have anywhere near this lion called the devil stalking us the way he is now with this generation. This is unprecedented in our country, with how our teenagers and young people are being stalked by hell from the womb. I mean, the outrage over the overturning of abortion says a lot. And let me tell you something, the outrage out of some of these people in the body of Christ, that's what's showing the most. I expect that in the world. But seeing how many so-called Christians and so-called saints are upset about this, very telling. Very telling. Wheat from tares, sheep from goats. It's all showing right now. And so for your kids, you have got to be proactive. If you are not, if you are already, congratulations. That's wonderful. Maybe form some sort of parents groups and support groups to deal with this, to share and swap wisdom and swap information. Well, I do this with my child. Well, I do this with mine, and I have discovered this, and share with parents. Do you know that this is trending on TikTok? Do you know that this is trending on all these other things? Make other parents aware of what is going on, because trending is real. It tracks. You ask these kids things whenever, sometimes like when we have our youth conferences or we're just talking, hanging out in the cafe, and I'll ask maybe some questions, or they just start talking about other things. And I'm like, what's on what? Who's on what? Where's the, huh? And the songs that they know. Now, they can rattle off a whole lot of things. We're working on them learning scripture. So, what does the word say about this? Crickets. What worship song is this? Crickets. Okay. And so, even as parents, you now have an opportunity to establish, if you have not already, a godly lifestyle and patterns in your home to teach your children how to pursue God for themselves. It's one thing to have a Christian home. That's great. But if you don't have family routines that revolve around prayer, worship, devotions, talking about the Lord, then your children are in fact not really learning how to do that in their home routine and home life. What you learn at home is largely what you carry the rest of your life. And so it's not the church's job to teach your child how to live a godly way. It's the church. Let me back that up. It's not the church's job to make that happen in your home. It is our job to make that so, and to establish that, and to outline good from evil and light from dark and righteous from unrighteous. It is your job as the custodian over their life to install that in them in the home. It's just like parents who think it's the teacher's job to do all the work with their kids in education. Well, you're their teacher. Well, you're their parent. Are you seeing? Well, now kids don't even have homework the way they used to, but are you seeing to it that they're doing their homework? Are you checking in with them on their assignments? Have you explored these certain things with them in the home life? So the teacher presents the information. Yeah, you need to teach them math. You need to teach them reading, writing, history. However, it's the home life that actually installs it all the way into that young person. Likewise with the things of God. You cannot just rely on the youth leader, the children's church teacher, or somebody like that who literally only has your child maybe a total of 3 or 4 hours a week, not a day, a week. The rest is on you in the home. So if you have not established any routines in your house that bring everybody together, or one parent might do this thing with the kids, one parent might do that, or maybe you are the only parent or grandparent, maybe one spouse isn't saved and the other one is, whatever, however you work that out and whatever works for your home. But it needs to be something. It needs to be something, because they have got to see it in action in mom and dad, or grandma, grandpa, or older siblings, or whomever is raising them up. They've got to see that in action. It is not enough to just tell, not do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. You can't have that, especially when kids get older, because then they start to challenge you and question you on what you are or are not doing. So let's talk about teaching teens about secular music first, and then we'll go to fantasy versus reality. I was out in the cafe, after service, and one of the teenagers came up to me and she said, Apostle, I actually have a question I've wanted to ask you for a little while. And I got kind of was like, okay. And I was asked, how do you wean yourself off of secular music and listen to more Christian music? Now, this question excited me. Excuse me. Because that meant that God was working on this young person. We teach what we teach, but ultimately, you have to be converted. The teenagers have to be converted themselves. They have got to believe in God for themselves. They have to believe that He's worth it for them. When they start getting 16, 17, 18 years old, you need to buy in. Yeah, the rules are not going to change in the house. We're not going to even apologize for it in the church, but they have got to be converted themselves because they're getting to that age where it's no longer mommy and daddy's God, it's mine. And he's no longer, this is what's been enforced upon me. It has to shift into, this is what I want for myself. Because growing up, which is why it's so important that you don't punish your teenagers with the things of God. When the kids act out, do not punish them with Jesus. Well, you're going to, as your punishment, you're going to have to read 50 chapters of scripture a day. Please don't say that. Now, they might need to read 50 scriptures a day, but present it in a different way. Okay, so we got in trouble here. We need to explore what God says in scripture. Let's dig into our word and let's read 10 chapters a day to get some answers. Let's work out this problem by turning to God for a solution. Okay, so you got in trouble. Let's see how you can not get in trouble again once you've calmed down as a parent. Because yes, teens will take you to that place where you have to remember that you know the Lord, that you know him. But once you've calmed down, do not, please, 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 because what happens is they grow up thinking that God is punishment. Going to church is a punishment. Reading their Bible is a punishment. Writing scripture 100 times is a punishment. And then everything is a punishment instead of actually preemptive, to where it's like, you know what, let's go on a family consecration together. Because see, so I know a lot of times parents don't want to turn off the television. Parents, adults, we as adults don't want to turn off that music. We as adults don't want to not watch movies or not look at these magazines or have these certain conversations with people. Adults don't want to do that, so they indulge it and they understand in their kids, but then they come down on them when the consequences arise. So please, for the love of God, actually, do not use him as a cudgel and a whipping post with your young people. Absolutely accountability. Well, God's gonna be so mad with you. Come on. There's no reason for all of that. There really isn't. And so let's back off of that extreme language and fear factor on them, still utilizing the word of God differently. And so with secular music, she asked me, well, how do you wean yourself from secular music and only go to and listen to Christian music? I only listen to Christian music. I have a huge playlist and it's all Christian. And so, really, I started using ungodly and godly music instead of secular versus Christian, because there is some Christian music out there that's questionable. It's questionable. And so I said, the first thing I said to her was, what you need to ask yourself is, why do you need that unclean music in your life? That's what you ask yourself. Why do I want it? Why do I need it? See, that's something she wasn't expecting that answer, obviously. And it was like, oh, yes, because anything that you fight to keep, it's because you want it or you need it. See, I'm not going to jump down her throat about, you know better and you've been here for 5 years and she's 15 and blah, 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 blah. Already knows all of that. We teach it everywhere. Her parents teach it in the house. I know that for a fact. And so it's like, well, and so she had to think. I said, you don't have to tell me. This is something that you have got to think about. We teach here God is a thinker, and so are we. So let's think about why you want and need secular music. Why do you want and need ungodly music? I said, could it be because, and I hope this is helping you all today. Let me know. Give me some feedback here. I hope this is helping you today. And I said, for example, do you really want a boyfriend, but you know you are not allowed to have one? And so you don't have a boyfriend, you can't have a boyfriend, but you want to hear all those little sexy, sexy songs with some guy singing this stuff to you. So that's your way to get it. She starts laughing immediately. I was like, listen, I was a teenage girl too once, okay? And I said, so maybe it's that. Maybe you're so frustrated because you feel like every aspect of your life is controlled by your parents because you're 15 and it is. And you want to have liberty. You want to explore for yourself. You have to ask yourself why exploring for yourself means rolling in the mud with Satan. You're not allowed to cuss. You shouldn't cuss. So, quoting somebody else's dirty lyrics with you and your friend she was sitting with is different because it's not really you cussing, it's them. Oh, they giggle. They're like, oh, busted. Uh-huh. Busted. Right. Exactly. I said, we were all young once, all right? Young, rebellious, dumb, stupid. I said, listen, today's music is so foul and vulgar, even compared to when I was a teenager at this point, 30 years ago, 30 some years ago in my teenage years, that you don't realize how nasty it has gotten. If you are an adult with children, I encourage you to listen to some of this trash that is out there so you understand what Satan is trying to plant in your kids. Don't listen to it with them. But unless you are actually breaking something down, if you, like, for example, if you catch them listening to something, you can turn that into a learning, mentoring moment. Oh, no, 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 no. Come on. You so proud of it. Let's listen. Get all the lyrics out there. What is this saying? Now, why is this appealing to you? Why do you want to hear this? Why do you want this to feed your soul? What is it? Is it making you feel powerful? Those violent lyrics, like, do you actually want to go out and hit somebody? Do you want to kill somebody? Because some of these lyrics are very violent, so full of profanity. I'm like, how is this even a song? Because all it is a string of profanity, and people are paying you millions of dollars to cuss them out. Okay? Cuss them straight out. But, bear down under it because we have lost the golden age of the church. That's gone. And we're not talking about the Beach Boys lyrics listening, your kids listening to that or something like that. This is right in your face. I mean, degrading lyrics about women and men, pornographic lyrics, the videos, bare-breasted women, obviously topless men. Men have had their shirts off in videos forever. Females with nothing but a G-string on. It is so nasty. And see, if you don't at least put your eyes across that at some point to get a wake-up call as to how nasty it is, this thing will keep sliding under you and keep sliding past you and keep sliding past you, and you'll miss it and say, well, when I was a kid, we dabbled in the little things too. Well, I mean, we listened to a little bit of secular music and I'm okay and we were okay. Completely different age. This is a completely different era. You can, like, if you're on any one of them really. I know Hulu has several biography videos. Netflix has some as well. I mean, they all do, I guess, of these young rappers and everything. I mean, and several of them are dead, so that should tell you, young tatted faces, and how they literally take on devils to become this persona, and that's who they're channeling through their music. Different age. Let me ring the bell. It's a different age. It's a different time. When I was coming up, secular R&B was Boys to Men. Okay, Belle Biv DeVoe. We had and even that was like, wait a minute now. When I was young, Cisco, he came out with the thong song, and that was, oh my goodness, somebody singing about it. Think about how long we have come down. Genuine had Pony. That was nasty back then. That doesn't even touch what is said today. So in the 90s was a huge turning point in music as far as what was becoming overtly unclean. See, before that, it was covert. The lyrics were more covert, they were smoother, they were more subtle, they had innuendos, they had euphemisms where you had to really be an adult to even know what you were singing. Your parents would say, do you know what you just said? No, I was just saying this. And they're like, oh my goodness, please stop. Okay, that was then. Now it's all in your face, all in your face. And so it was oh, what's his face, Baby Got Back, that came out in like 93, 94, 92, 93, early 90s. Now we have Nicki Minaj all these years later with Anaconda and all these other songs that far exceed that. And so it's a new time. It's a different time in every genre. I would say that hip hop is probably the most foul, vulgar one. And, rap, hip hop, and then pop, country. Yes, Sir Mix-a-Lot. There you go. And so all of those things have now been condensed and just amplified with nasty parental guidance on these videos. Whenever I was watching, oh gosh, what's her name? One of these singers several years ago who came, I heard the song like on the radio, or I had seen her on television singing like on a night show, singing the lyrics to something. And whenever I saw the video roll through, I watched the video and there was so much profanity in the video that they're not allowed to sing on primetime television. I was in shock. I was like, huh? And so all these kids in the concerts, all this whatever, people paying all this money for Beyonce and Jay-Z and Tupac, yeah, right, and Snoop Dogg and whatever, just straight cussed out from the time they get on stage to the time they get off. And I'm thinking 2.5 hours, my ears will be bleeding from all of that. This is what your kids are watching. This is what is happening to them now. These are the things that were seeds planted when I was a teenager that have now gone full grown, no restraints. You're talking about somebody like Justin Timberlake, right? Was it him? And somebody else years ago who was the good, clean boys. And you're talking about bare breasted women in your videos. I mean, this is where we are right now. Your kids can do this on YouTube, they can watch these in various places. Well, this is for if you're 18 or older. Verify if you're 18 or older. Who's going to verify that? You just hit yes. You lie about your birth date. I mean, that's easy. That's no big thing. And there you go. And it's right there. And so I asked her, I said, what do you need from this? What is this feeding? I said, because when you are delivered from that, you won't want to listen to this music. And it's an addiction because it's in your soul. Music gets in your soul, not just your ears, not just your heart, not your spirit, in your soul, which is why you can go back to that thing. We were talking about this yesterday, how music can take you back to a time and a place like this. You snap your fingers, you hear a song, and you are back in high school. You're back in middle school. You're back in the club. You're back in where you shouldn't have been. You're back where you should have been, where you had a great day, where you had a horrible day. There are certain songs I cannot listen to today, not just because they're not godly, but I had a roommate before I moved to ORU, and she was going through a very depressed state in the first school I went to, and played certain songs every day in the room. And I thought, I'm want to jump out of a window right now. And so even if I hear them in the mall, I'm like, I'm not going in that store, because it just takes me back to that whole time where she was extremely depressed. And I wasn't depressed, but it was depressing. The whole environment was depressing. And so music is powerful. So as you're talking to your teens about secular music, yes, obviously, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. We're not playing around with that. But now you can ask questions. Why do you want this? What is this fulfilling? What do you think these lyrics are giving you that Jesus Christ cannot? And I said to them, and it was a wonderful conversation. Actually, it was a fantastic conversation. It went into a whole conversation about their purpose and calling, what they want to do with their lives. But I said, I said, I know you listen to this trashy music because worship doesn't move you. You can stand there like a stone for 40 minutes in the presence of God and not be moved. That means that He doesn't own your heart. This trash does. And it weighs you down because sin is a weight. It weighs you down. You can't raise your hands. You can't sing. You can't do any of these things. You can't clap. And you just looking around, waiting for the moment to be over. I said, but I guarantee you, nobody has to tell you to twerk your little toot whenever you two are together listening to this music, do they? Oh, and they start laughing. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. Because if you're shaking it for the enemy, you're not going to give God praise. If you're giving him all your best stuff and you're doing all your moves and you're mimicking all these old silly videos that you see, I know that's what you're doing. I said, we know as adults what you're doing. When God doesn't move you, it means somebody else is, and that somebody is his enemy. That somebody is Satan. So we had a very honest conversation about this. And I think it changed them because they're now thinking. I said, next time y'all get together, you want to put this stuff on, you're going to be thinking differently. So give me your feedback. What do you think about that? About talking to the teens and young people and even little kids about this issue. And so they were challenged with, why do you need this? Why do you want this? And why are the things of God just not appetizing to you? Like, you don't want to be in praise and worship. I said, but you don't want to be in praise and worship because it's clean, because it's holy, because it's not about you, it's about somebody else. I said, all this music is about us. All of this music is about making us feel good about ourselves and having somebody, like I said, if so you don't have a boyfriend, you want a boyfriend, well, I'm just going to listen to all this music, all this dirty music. I said, and this music is trash today about what they're saying and everything, so at least you can get it somewhere. Come on already. Veronica said, this for grown folk too. Glory to God. Yes, it is for grown folk. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we have got to understand the things that have us hooked in our soul. And so they're going to think about it. I said, think about it. And I said, next time you look through your ungodly playlist, I want you to look at every single song. I told her, and think about, why do I like this song? Why do I like being cussed at? Why do I like listening to these dirty, vulgar lyrics? Why do I like twisting my body and dancing like this when, when you wouldn't do it in church? Okay. Why do I like that? I said to her again, because until you get to the root of why you love it so much, I could say all these things. Well, you shouldn't listen to it because Jesus doesn't like it. That's obvious. We know this already. Well, you shouldn't listen to it because, you're going to go to hell. Okay. Well, you shouldn't listen. You already know. Okay. When somebody gets addicted to drugs, they know before their first hit that it's not going to be good for them. Yet something in their soul is driving them and telling them that taking that hit of drugs is a better solution than dealing with the pain of whatever they're dealing with. So we didn't go down that road. Now we teach all that stuff. Don't worry. We have not eliminated our teaching or changed it. But in that moment, it was challenging. I said, I want you to go through and I want you to look at those lyrics and think about every single song. Look at the theme. What are the types of songs that draw you to them? Everybody has their flow, everybody has their thing. And she was even saying how she likes some of the older R&B because it isn't as nasty as this modern. I said, but even still, just because it's not as dirty doesn't mean it isn't dirty. All right. You can get mud on you, and then there's being covered in mud, but there's still mud involved. I said, so you may not be saturated in nasty, but you still get some on you. And so, why is it that you want this song that he says this or she's saying that? Or why do you want to dance like this and dance like that with your friends? Why do you want to do that? Why don't you want to be holy? Why don't you want to live righteously before God? Why don't you want to do that? I said, because this mess gets in your soul and it is hard to get out because it's feeding something that until you can acknowledge and resolve what that is and then replace it with the things of Christ, you'll be back and forth. You'll tell yourself all the right things. Come on, I grew up. Anybody else grow up in the age of CDs? We're gonna scratch. Well, first you would burn them, but then they were like, okay, that's bad for the environment. And so we're gonna scratch and break all of our CDs, and we're gonna have this whole thing in youth group over this summer in summer camp, because it's always summer camp that we get right with God. And we're gonna have this, and everybody's crying, and everybody's whatever, and blah 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 blah. And then guess what? 3 weeks later, 5 weeks later, you're back in Walmart at that time. You're back in the store, and yeah, you buy maybe a little less than, and maybe not as much. And okay, let's see. Your talk to them. Oh, okay. Amber said that, okay, our talk to them was more effective than scolding because you armed them without them realizing it. Armed and really disarmed them. Oh, Marcia said that. Okay. Okay, let's see. Precious, you helped me to bring this conversation up better than I did before. Absolutely, because parents want the yeah, break it up my parents, you really do want the best for your children. But a lot of times, if you had heavy-handed parenting, then that's what you know. There is a place in the middle between just railing on somebody and talking to them. Talking to them does not mean substituting consequences. You can have a real conversation and still say, and by the way, you're grounded for the rest of your life. I mean, you can say that. I'm not saying not to punish, absolutely. But the way it comes about, because I have seen parenting and I've experienced parenting on the receiving end of things where when things were talked out with me and I still had punishment that did not feel good, I understood why and actually agreed that I should get the punishment. Hmm, interesting. And so it's like now you catch your kids in this, let's just say this music, let's talk about this, and I'm taking your phone. But do you understand why I'm taking your phone? Yes. Tell me why. You always have to ask young people why. What did I just say? So that there is conversation and they don't just tune you out. Say everything that should be said. So what did you hear me say? You heard you said I was the worst kid for doing this. I did not say that. I didn't even imply that at all. What did I say? Okay, fine. You said this and this and the okay, and now and so on and so forth. Now it doesn't mean they're gonna like it. That's who enjoys being punished? Nobody. All right. So teaching them about secular music and then fantasy versus reality. This is a big, big, big one as well. And so fantasy is illusory appearance, power of imagination, or a picture to oneself. So it's your image to you. So all of these. So fantasy is the illusion. That's what's projected to you. This is what we see online all over the place. Power of imagination, what you conjure up, or what we see in Hollywood that's been conjured up, these shows. And then picture to oneself. That's what's in your mind to you. So those are three quick dimensions of fantasy. This is from Etymology, the Etymology Online website, about fantasy and what a fantasy is. Now we start and we have conversation. So coming back around to what I said earlier about you sitting down with your kids and talking to them about to see if they can discern reality from fantasy. Whenever they have children who have to testify in a court case or something like that, especially against their parents or against somebody else, the first thing that the psychologist will do is determine if that child can discern the truth from a lie, reality from imagination. And they start by asking them basic questions that kids know. What color is this? Is this green? Is this, how do you know? Well, how do you know that this is this? And so is, so and so real and is, well, no, that's not real. This is, and so they establish and they get a baseline for if this child has a grip on reality and the truth, or if they live in their imagination, because that's going to determine how credible their testimony actually is, because it can be passionate, it can be emotional, and be completely made up. Completely. And so with your teenagers, engage them in conversation that steers them toward telling you if what they believe about something is reality or fantasy. I want to be like so and so. Well, why do you want to be like so and so? Well, because they have nice things. Okay, do they have nice things? We talked, for example, a lot last year about the celebrities and the younger ones, especially, and these artists and whatever that they really maybe wanted to emulate or something that was going on in their life. And so we had a lot of conversations about, but are they happy? Well, I mean, look at all their pictures online. They're on have pictures on these amazing vacations, or they're living in these houses, or they have these boyfriends or girlfriends, or they have this money and whatever. Are they happy? Are they at peace? Are they suicidal? Oh, I don't know. Let's talk about people who have killed themselves. We address young people that have committed suicide, older people that have taken their own lives, who look like they had the perfect life. And so we begin to peel away and separate and address that most people only put what's pretty online. I can't tell you how many people I know, even recently. Amazing family photos. I just love my spouse so much. I love my family so much. Boom, they fall off of social media, divorced. Huh? What are you talking about? You're divorced. You just had your whatever child. You just had your whatever anniversary. You just got whatever dog. You moved into whatever home. You just totally honored this person online, and now you're divorced. Or all of a sudden they just disappear and then they reappear. Oh, yeah, well, we were separated. And it's like, oh, see, none of that made social media. None of it. So, in teaching them that nobody's life is perfect, there's no such thing as perfect pictures and photos. You take it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Oh, let me see the lighting. Let me do it ever. Paris Hilton was the person who invented the selfie. Selfies did not exist before Paris Hilton. And it's a very interesting story to watch. When she first did it, had no idea, obviously, it was going to turn into a literal thing that is established in all of society around the world. Took a picture of herself because at that time, cell phones were still relatively new as we know them, kind of thing. And it became what it is now. And you can learn a lot from somebody based on what's on their social media. For example, how many pictures of themselves they have when it's only themselves versus pictures with friends versus posts about things not related to them, but maybe related to society or related to something that interests them. It's very interesting psychologically what you can learn about somebody. And so, teaching our young people to understand that largely what you're seeing is an illusion. It is a fantasy that has been projected onto us, presented as reality. And so we talk a lot about, are you sure that that's true? Are you sure that's real? Well, I want to be like so and so. I mean, some of these hip hop artists, these rappers that these kids want to be like, these guys are killing themselves, ODing on drugs, being killed by someone else, all of the accidental overdoses that have taken young people out. You should look up how many rappers have died, young ones, under 22 years old, under 25 years old. How many of these young people have STDs? How many of them are walking around very sick, actually very sick, very ill from things that they brought on themselves? And so the point of today's broadcast is to really empower you as adults, as parents, or if you're a young person watching, to empower you to go beyond the obvious and to ask yourself the challenging questions with your young people. They don't have to be teenagers. They can be 8 years old, 7 years old, 4 years old, because now you're not really sure what is hunting your kids down, even when they're with you. You have relatives that might believe some weird things. They might have some strange belief systems, and you don't know what they're telling your kids. They might have cousins and family members where the households are not the same, and they're feeding them some nonsense information. And it's like, where are you getting this? I mean, some of the things I have heard children say, like, huh? Where are you getting this? Who? And then you have to play it really cool. And you'd say, now, sweetie, who told you that? Now, where did you know? That's very interesting. Where did you hear that? You have to be like an investigator and not a cudgel. Okay. Investigate. You have to be smooth with it. to get this information because kids are cunning and they're taught to be cunning. They're taught to hide from you as a parent. They're taught not to trust you as an authority figure or an adult. They're taught that the worst thing that can happen is that their parents know what's going on in their lives. This is what they are taught. Now, by and large, teens have always been taught to be rebellious and everything like that. But now it is, established social doctrine. Don't trust your parents. Don't talk to them. Your grandparents are old fashioned. Your parents don't understand, but they're going to take your rights. They're going to take your freedom. They're going to take your liberty. They're going to take all these things from you. So hide, hide, hide. Don't share it. So now parents have got to be prophetic investigators on a level in which they never had to be before because the kids are being told by teachers, they're being told by their friends. They're being told by television. They're being told by apps. They're being told by all kinds of things not to trust your parents. Well, your parents are going to be mad. They're going to kick you out of the house. This is what they're being told. Listen, there's a reason that kids hide things on kids hide things on top of not wanting to get in trouble, but the fear factor. Fear is being indoctrinated and ingrained into them to fear you as the authority. Authority is a terrible word. It's a bad word now. The authority figure in their life. So don't tell your parents. Don't tell your mom and dad. Why do you think these adults have built apps to where things can disappear once they make these videos? All this nonsense where you can have shadow memberships and subscriptions to hide from your parents. So now they are being empowered to be stalked and to be sneaky, and now trafficking is so much easier because they'll get in by saying, well, don't tell your mom and dad because they're going to take your phone. Lord have mercy. The stats on cellular addiction are crazy. Okay, they're going to take your phone. Well, they're not going to let you, they're going to infringe upon your privacy. They're going to do this and they're going to do that. And on and on it goes. Teachers are telling kids this because the government is telling parents it's not your responsibility, it's not your right, it's not your privilege to know what's going on in your child's life. The government is saying this. So, if it's coming from up there, it's gone all the way down to the bottom, to the babysitter. So, you have to be mindful and you have to be aware of that. I wanted to address this with you today because it's another hot button of mine for our young people, and in helping them work through who God has made them to be, but also understanding that you have got to always be on the lookout for what the enemy is doing, and always be on the lookout for how he is seducing your children, and always be on the lookout because now things are a lot more bold and creative than they were even when I was younger. I mean, it's like, what are we saying here? It's scary. It's frightening how vulnerable our young people are. It's scary and frightening how the enemy is so stalking them and he's not even hiding it. When we were kids, it was hidden. It was, well, don't tell this and don't tell that and okay. And you go sneak over here and do this and you go sneak over there and do that. But really it was kind of more of us sneaking to do things more than being stalked by the enemy every single solitary day. I mean, we're talking about now they're trying to, tell our kids that for girls, it's normal to be in a lesbian relationship. Yeah, it's normal. You have your girlfriend now, it's girls dating girls and everything else, and the pressure now is to date girls in middle school. The pressure is to date girls in middle school. Are your kids ready to deal with that pressure? Are your girls ready to deal with that pressure? Are they? Are they? Boys having pressure to watch all of this porn and to have, multiple sex partners and to have, multiple things going on in their life. And do you know what your kids are exposed to? Do they feel that they can sit down and talk to you and say, okay, this is what's going on? How about this? Are you bold enough to ask them? That's really the question. Are you bold enough to ask them? Because that's the scary part, I think, about being a parent the most, is that you have got to be bold enough to ask your children, are you into this? Or even something like, has somebody tried to pressure you into doing this? That could be another softer way to introduce the subject to where it's not accusatory, but it's still investigative because we've got to investigate. Hey, son, come on over here. Let's talk for a minute. Or several of his friends. Sometimes they talk more when they're together. I found that sometimes it's when they're separated. You might get a little more honesty and truth out of them. Come on over here. Let's talk to me for just a minute. So, have you been pressured to watch porn? Have you been pressured to have sex with girls? Have you been pressured to have sex with boys? Girls, have you been pressured to have sex with girls? With boys, with both at the same time. And so, I mean, seriously, we're at that age, age as in age and time, where these are questions that you ask and not asking it with the attitude of, I'm going to hammer you if you say yes. But listen, I want you to talk to me. I want you to be honest with me. I want you to know that I'm here for you. Do you feel like when you're at school, there's pressure that you can't handle? Do you feel like you can't say no to certain people? Are there teachers who are trying to make you do this? Because, see, all kinds of mess happens at school. As crazy as COVID was and all that drama, a lot of kids did a lot better because they were not in public school or Christian school for that matter, because they were at home with their parents. Now, I know we say a lot of statistics about how the abusive situations have gone up because the domestic violence was already there and the whole COVID situation just put it in a pressure cooker. Less often do you hear about how well a lot of kids did because they were not in school and they were at home and not in that cesspool of the public arena. And so these are now things that we have got to ask our children. Look at their behavior, observe them. Have they been acting differently? Don't always, interpret them acting out as them just being rebellious. Maybe they're being bullied. Maybe. Now, maybe they're just smart mouth, but maybe they're being bullied. Maybe somebody's trying to force them into having drugs. Maybe if it's your daughter, there's a boy at school who is hemming them up against the lockers every day or trying to corner them or use their friends to corner them or things like that. I mean, there are so many things that can go on in a young person's day that they don't talk about. And we have an opportunity to try and draw it out of them. So if you've noticed a behavior change, first pray. If you're a godly parent, pray. The Holy Spirit will begin to speak to you. He will lead you to certain things. He'll tell you, check that book bag. Look in the school book, if they even get them anymore. Look in the school book. You might open it up and find something. Check the front pocket. Check the pockets of their pants before you wash them. Check under the bed. Now, come on, in between the mattress, kids are not any more inventive than we were. And the pillowcases, check all those things to see what's going on. And if you find something, seek God, talk to your spouse if you have one, maybe get some counsel or wisdom on how to address it. Don't just go whole hog crazy on them, because you might just shut down an opportunity altogether. But deal with it quickly, but be strategic, be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Now, again, that does not say that that the rod is disappearing, because we know what the word says about that. But some things are not about hard discipline. Some things are about restoration. Some of your kids may have been raped at school and you have no idea, molested at school and you have no idea, in college, even, and they're embarrassed. Or they're going to say, my mom and dad told me not to do this and I did it anyway. Yeah, yeah. This is why we told you not to do it. Sure. I'm absolutely going to say, I told you so. And come on, let's go. Let's go work it out. And so, just understand there's a lot of mitigating factors in here with young people, more now than ever before, that you have to take to God in prayer and explore as we're working these out with our young people. I pray this was a blessing to you today. It was a blessing to me. As always, thanks for tuning in to Apostle of the Future. We'll see you next week.